Oh my God, he's not human. He's a god. Don't strike me. I'll get on my knees and apologize to Mr. Wade. Help me, I was wrong. Several people dropped to their knees, bowing and scraping before Charlie. Christian was so scared he scrambled under a table, his heart filled with awe. But the bolts of lightning seemed to have eyes, only blasting the mosquitoes to dust and not harming a single person. Owen's expression was one of pure shock and terror. He never imagined that Charlie's power could be so terrifying. Compared to him, Owen was just an ant. If that rolling thunder hit him, there wouldn't be anything left of him. He panicked, got to his feet, and scrambled to escape the courtyard. All he wanted to do was escape. He had to get out of Heir's Hill and never come back. He no longer cared about being the most respected master in Heir's Hill. Trying to escape? Charlie smiled coldly, then pointed a finger. Here, again. A bolt of lightning slammed down, throwing Owen straight to the ground and shattering the pottery jar in his hand. His hands throbbed with pain. He was terrified, shaking and screaming. Wade! Mr. Wade, spare my life! Charlie's expression was cold as he walked toward him, one step at a time. Using an evil, corrupt act that harms the world. You're a crooked devil who deserves to be punished by the heavens. Today I'm the one punishing you with thunder. Do you accept your fate? Owen's mouth hung open, but he couldn't say a word. He watched the thunder and lightning flash within the dark clouds, crying with a mixture of grief and outrage. It seemed this was the end for him. Why? Why was there someone so terrifying in Heir's Hill? Why did I have to be so foolish and cross him? Before Owen could even process what was happening, several bolts of lightning struck at once, smashing down on him. Owen, who had been so aggressive and arrogant just moments before, was slammed to the ground before he could even let out a scream. His human form was gone, replaced by what looked like a piece of burnt wood. A disgusting, charred smell filled the courtyard. Rain, cease. Wind, rise. Charlie waved his hand. Miraculously, the heavy rain stopped. A gust of wind kicked up from the ground, sending sand and pebbles flying, sweeping away the smell of burnt corpses from the courtyard. In the middle of the wind, Charlie's face was calm, as if nothing had happened. But everyone else in the courtyard just stood there, their mouths hanging open in shock. Stephen was trembling all over and didn't dare to speak. He knew if Charlie had struck him with lightning earlier, he would have been dead long ago. It was only then that he understood Charlie had never even considered him a real threat, and that's why he was still alive. Mr. Wade, you're a god! Christian's voice trembled as he dropped to his knees with a thud, facing Charlie with his hands pressed together. Solomon was so scared that he also fell to his knees, shuffling forward in front of Charlie and groveling on the ground. Mr. Wade, please spare my life. I was a fool. I shouldn't have followed Owen. He was just a fraud. Please, Mr. Wade, spare my worthless life. I'm willing to do anything for you. Charlie glanced at him without any emotion and walked right past Solomon White. Terry spoke respectfully. I believe that from now on the master of Heir's Hill will be Mr. Wade. For the future of metaphysics, we await your orders, Mr. Wade. I will follow them. He was addressing the entire metaphysics community of the place. Just moments ago, they were all fighting for their lives, but now, no one had any objections. They were all completely convinced and shouted together, Mr. Wade, please lead us here in Heir's Hill. Just moments ago, they were all fighting to the death. But now they were all eager for Charlie to take charge of the entire Heir's Hill city, even the whole district's metaphysics community. No one had any objections to Charlie. They had never seen a god like Charlie, who could summon heavenly thunder with just a word. This was the realm of metaphysics, a supernatural power they didn't dare to even imagine. Looking at Owen's body, scorched by lightning on the ground, they all knew that Charlie's strength was beyond comprehension. Letting a person like that lead them wasn't just something they accepted. They hoped to get Charlie's guidance. Charlie frowned slightly and said to everyone, "I'm not a part of the metaphysics community. I'm not interested in metaphysics. From now on, let Terry Castillo act as your representative." As soon as he finished speaking, the people present just stared, their mouths open in shock. The divine lightning had already blown their minds, and now Mr. Wade was saying he wasn't interested in metaphysics? That he wasn't even part of their world? Was this just a passing hobby for him, summoning a few bolts of heavenly thunder for fun? Unbelievable! Absolutely next level! The crowd was silent, everyone looking around at each other. Terry glanced at Charlie hesitantly and said respectfully, "It's an honor to handle this for you, Mr. Wade. From now on, I'll ask all of you, my friends, to handle your own affairs. I will take care of the smaller matters myself, and then I will come to Mr. Wade for advice on bigger issues." The tense atmosphere relaxed a lot. Lucas immediately walked over and said in a respectful voice, "I thank you for what you did, Mr. Wade. I'd like to offer you a check for $80 million to show my admiration." Wyatt also stepped forward, looking ashamed, and said, "Thank you, Mr. Wade, for getting rid of that menace. From now on, I, Wyatt Gilmore, will follow any order from the supreme leader of Oris Hill. We're ready to listen." When the crowd saw the two men stepping forward to suck up, they didn't want to be left behind and quickly started flattering Charlie as well. Terry said, "For today's banquet, the White family sponsored $150 million. It was originally a prize for each winner. Now that Mr. Wade is the champion, this prize will naturally go to him." Salman was still kneeling on the ground, not daring to get up. His forehead was bruised from bowing. He hurriedly said, "Mr. Wade, I was a fool. Please forgive me." Charlie frowned and said coldly, "Salman, didn't you believe in Owen before?" Salman hurriedly bowed his head again. "Mr. Wade, I was completely fooled by that Owen. I see now that he's nothing compared to you. From now on, I'll be loyal to you and only you, Mr. Wade, for the rest of my life." Then he added, "Mr. Wade, to show you how truly sorry I am, I'd like to give you a villa. I'll have someone get it cleaned up, and then I'll give you the key. I'm begging you to forgive me." A villa? Charlie frowned slightly. For someone with his resources, a villa was nothing. But buying one himself would be a problem. After all, he couldn't explain to his wife where the money came from. But if someone wanted to give him one, why say no? After all, he and his family were still living in that small old house, and they really needed to move to a better place. As for Salman, he was pretty despicable, but he seemed genuinely sorry and didn't deserve to die for his mistake. So Charlie nodded and said, "All right, if you're serious, then fine. But if you ever cross me again, I won't be this forgiving." Salman was overjoyed and quickly knelt down again. "Thank you, Mr. Wade, for your mercy. I'll seriously reflect on this, and I promise it will never happen again." "All right." Charlie then turned to Christian, who looked utterly horrified. He asked coolly, "Christian, does your family think I cheated you out of your money?" Christian's legs suddenly gave out, and he collapsed to his knees with a thud. He said in terror, "Of course not. I was just confused for a moment and had some doubts about you, Mr. Wade. Now I am completely convinced that you are a true master of metaphysics. Please forgive me." After he finished speaking, he grabbed a terrified Stephen and yelled angrily, "You idiot! Kneel down!" Stephen was already shaking with fear. When Christian yelled, he instantly dropped to his knees and stammered, "I was wrong, Mr. Wade. Please forgive me. I really didn't mean to doubt you." Christian slapped him hard across the face, then hit him again with a backhand, slapping him a dozen times in a row until Stephen's cheek swelled up. Stephen didn't dare to move. He just knelt on the ground and cried. At that moment, the beating was nothing. He was most afraid that Charlie would call down divine lightning, just like he did to Owen, and strike him dead. Skylar's pretty face turned pale with fright. She never dreamed that Charlie would turn out to be a master with such incredible magical powers. Originally, she had been a little angry with Charlie and felt she had to find a chance to get back at the guy. But now it seemed the man was so powerful that she could only feel awe. She was afraid that Charlie would be angry with her younger brother Stephen, so she also knelt and begged. "Mr. Wade, my brother is still young and doesn't know any better. Please forgive him this time." Seeing the 3 members of the Knox family kneeling in front of him, Charlie said calmly, "It's good that you're willing to admit your mistakes, so I'll let this go for now. But if anything like this happens in the future, don't blame me for being cruel." As soon as the Knox family heard these words, they hurriedly bowed their heads and thanked him as if they had just been granted a pardon. Warnia stood on the edge of the crowd watching this scene unfold, her feelings a mixture of excitement and confusion. Before today, she had always thought that Charlie was just someone who knew a little about antiques, but that his background was ordinary and he wasn't anyone important. She couldn't believe it. He had been hiding his strength all along. Today's events left Warnia completely speechless. She had never seen anything like it in her entire life. Just then, Charlie took a step up, looked down at everyone present, and said coldly, "Listen to me." The moment he spoke, everyone immediately looked up at Charlie with complete respect, not daring to make a sound. Charlie scanned the crowd and sternly shouted, "Once you walk out this door, no one is to mention a single thing about what happened today to the outside world. Otherwise, I will make sure you suffer the same fate as Owen." Everyone's expression was stunned. It seemed Mr. Wade didn't want his identity and power to become public knowledge. He really was a low-key master. Unlike the famous Owen, who would show off his shoddy jury-rigging skills everywhere. Compared with Mr. Wade, he was completely worthless. It was pathetic. As a result, everyone clasped their hands and bowed. "We will follow Mr. Wade's instructions." Charlie nodded, satisfied, and said, "In that case, let's leave now." With everyone watching in awe, Charlie calmly left. Warnia couldn't help but stare at him on the drive back. Charlie had returned to his usual ordinary self, and she couldn't see any sign of that immense power on him. She was surprised and found it a little strange. Just a short while ago, Charlie had projected an aura of a supreme master, one that made people tremble with fear. But now that presence was gone. At first glance, he looked no different from any other person on the street. It was hard to tell if he was deliberately hiding it or if the whole thing had just been an illusion. Warnia couldn't help but ask, "Charlie, did you really summon that lightning back there?" Charlie looked at her and smiled faintly. "What do you think? If I said it was a coincidence, would you believe me?" In Warnia's mind, the image of Charlie summoning the heavenly thunder flashed again. In that flash of lightning, he stood proudly against the world, his presence overwhelming. Any woman who saw that would fall for him. Warnia couldn't help but feel her heart skip a beat, but she quickly shook her head. What a ridiculous idea! Even the world's top physicists couldn't control lightning. If Charlie could summon heavenly thunder, would he still be the same down-on-his-luck son-in-law he was now? Could it be that the divine lightning was really just a coincidence? When Charlie got back to his front door, he heard the voice of his mother-in-law, Elaine, shouting from inside the house. "I told you to find a capable husband, but you just wouldn't listen to me." Look at how capable that son-in-law is. He bought her a huge 4-bedroom place, over 1,900 square feet. How amazing is that? Then there's our house, barely 1,300 square feet. I feel so cramped in here. After she finished, Elaine added angrily, "Other people have sons-in-law you can count on. Charlie is completely useless. If I have to count on him, I'll never live in a big house in my entire life." Claire's frustrated voice cut in. "Mom, why are you always comparing us to other people? Besides, I just got promoted to director. If we save up for a few years, we can afford a new house." Elaine scoffed. "Wait a few more years? I'll be dead by then. Ever since you married Charlie, our family's life has gone downhill. We used to live in the Wilson family villa, and now look at this. This run-down dump. All of my friends live better than me." Claire said, "Mom, what's the point of always making these comparisons?" "It's frustrating," Elaine yelled. "I'm frustrated because I can't measure up to them. It's so incredibly frustrating." Charlie just shook his head, opened the door, and walked in. Seeing Charlie walk in, Elaine snorted. "Look who finally decided to come back. Are you going to cook dinner? We're all starving." Charlie smiled. "Yeah, Mom. I'll get started on it right now." With that, he headed straight for the kitchen. Charlie knew Elaine's character inside and out. She was a total snob who couldn't stand to see other people have nice things. He figured if she ever found out that Salman wanted to give him a villa to make things right, she would probably come over and start kissing his feet. Still, with Elaine acting like this, Charlie wasn't about to say anything about the house he'd been offered. While Charlie was busy in the kitchen, Claire came over and whispered, "Don't take what Mom said to heart. She's just obsessed with what other people have." Charlie pretended not to know what she was talking about. "What did Mom say?" "I didn't hear a thing." "Oh, sure you didn't," Claire teased, poking him on the forehead with her finger. "It would be a miracle if you didn't hear her." Charlie seized the chance and gently took her hand. Claire blushed and quickly glanced out of the kitchen, trying to pull her hand back, but Charlie held on. He looked down and saw she was wearing the bracelet he'd made for her. He smiled and asked, "So, is the bracelet working?" Claire snapped back to reality. She nodded and said, "You know, it really is effective. Ever since I started wearing it, I feel completely refreshed and so much more comfortable." "What is this bracelet made of anyway? How does it work?" Charlie smiled. "It's just a special kind of pearl. The white pearl on her wrist made her skin look incredibly smooth and fair. Her hand felt warm and soft in his, and he didn't want to let go." Claire noticed him staring, blushed, and quickly pulled her hand away, giving him a playful glare. Charlie smiled and asked, "So, you want to move to a new house too?" "Of course! Who wouldn't want to live in a new house? Ever since Mom had to move out of the villa, she's done nothing but complain about how small and run down this place is." Claire sighed, then shook her head. "But houses are so expensive right now, and we just don't have that kind of money. So, we should probably just forget about it." But then, an idea seemed to hit her, and she blurted out, "Wait! We could go look at some houses first, just to see. We could figure out how much more a new place would cost compared to this one. If the price difference isn't too crazy, maybe we could actually upgrade." Before Charlie could even respond, Claire said excitedly, "That's it! Tomorrow's the weekend. Let's go out and look at some houses." Seeing how excited she was, Charlie nodded. "Since you want to go, I'll go with you." Claire immediately started looking up listings on her phone and decided they should check out some houses in the new district where the neighborhoods were nicer. Right after they finished eating, there was a knock on the door. A delivery guy handed a small package to Charlie. "This is for you. Can you sign here?" After Charlie signed for it, he opened the package. Inside was a house key and several gold-plated key cards engraved with the words Thompson Villa, Unit A5. Just then, Charlie's phone rang. It was Solomon, the head of the White family. He said respectfully, "Mr. Wade, did you receive the key and the key cards? Thompson Villa is a development by Thompson Industries in Oris Hill. It's their most high-end project. Unit A5, the one I gave you, is the largest villa there. Not including the courtyard, it's over 10,000 square feet. Please, accept it." Charlie had heard of Thompson. They'd developed villas and high-rise communities all over Oris Hill, and they were known for having the most exclusive real estate projects in the city. A villa like that would go for at least $100 million on the open market. Looks like Solomon was really pulling out all the stops. So Charlie said casually, "That's very generous of you." Solomon replied ecstatically, "Not at all. It's an honor for the White family to be of service to you, Mr. Wade." Back in the room, Charlie casually asked Claire, "Honey, do you like the houses of Thompson Crest?" "Thompson Crest!" Claire exclaimed. "How could we ever afford a place there?" Even their regular high-rise apartments are twice as expensive as anywhere else. But yeah, their homes are definitely the best in all of Oris Hill. Charlie smiled slightly. "We can still go look tomorrow. We can worry about whether we can afford it later." Claire quickly waved her hands. "No, forget it. Let's be realistic and just look at regular houses." Charlie smiled and said, "Look, I have a friend who works at Thompson. He said he might be able to get us an insider deal. We can at least go and see." The next morning, Charlie grabbed the villa key and access cards Solomon had given him, and he and Claire drove over to the Thompson Sales Center. Soon they pulled up in front of the sales center. The place was packed. It seemed like everyone in Oris Hill was curious about the Thompson properties. Even if they couldn't afford a place, they still wanted to come and see what all the fuss was about. Seeing the crowd, Claire said to Charlie, "Charlie, these places are way too expensive for us. We can't afford them, so let's not waste our time." Charlie smiled. "Honey, we're already here. What's the harm in looking? Besides, I want to see what a place like this is really like. Come on, let's just take a peek." Claire sighed. "All right, fine. I guess it's a chance to see what a top-tier Thompson home looks like." Inside, a crowd was gathered around a huge model of the development, listening as a sales agent explained the layout of the Thompson community. The area Thompson had developed in Oris Hill was massive. On the outer edges were high-rise residential buildings, which were their more standard homes. The units ranged from about 1,300 to 2,600 square feet. The prices were astronomical, starting well over $1 million. But in the center, the most desirable and private location was the villa section, with single-family homes. The villas ranged from around 3,200 square feet to over 10,000 square feet. With a yard and a basement included, the price was insane. In other words, the villa Solomon had given Charlie was worth $130 million. The sales agent continued, "We provide separate property management and security services for our distinguished villa owners. Even though the regular homes and the villas are in the same community, there's a fence separating the villa area from the rest of the development. The main residential area is already very secure. Unauthorized people aren't allowed in. But the villa area inside is even safer. Simply put, if a burglar somehow got into the main residential area, it would be impossible for them to get past the additional security for the villa section. So our villa owners have absolute peace of mind." Just then, a woman's angry voice cut through the air. "Are you serious? So you're basically using the owners in the regular apartments as a human shield for the rich people in the villas?" A lot of people in the crowd nodded in agreement. Listening to the sales agent, that's exactly what it sounded like. Charlie thought the voice sounded familiar. When he looked up, he saw it was a woman wearing heavy makeup. It was Claire's cousin, Wendy. What was she doing here? Charlie and Claire were both surprised to see her, and right next to her stood her father, Noah Wilson, her mother, Yvonne, and her brother, Harold. Her whole family was there. Could they actually be here to buy a house? Claire whispered to Charlie, "My uncle and his family are all here. Let's just go." Charlie shook his head. "What for? If they're allowed to be here, so are we." "I'm just worried they'll start giving you a hard time again," Claire said. Charlie just smiled. "Don't worry about it. Your husband has been dealing with their nonsense for years. I'm used to it by now." "Okay," Claire nodded. At that moment, the sales agent smiled at Wendy, who had just been complaining. "Madam, it's true that here at Thompson we've always considered our villa owners to be our most distinguished residents. Our private swimming pool, exclusive sports clubs, luxury health spas, golf course, and the Michelin-starred restaurant we brought over from Italy are all located in the villa section and are for the exclusive use of our villa owners." Wendy said angrily, "What are you trying to say? That the people who live in the high-rises are nothing? We're spending money too. Why can't we enjoy those amenities?" The sales agent replied, "I do apologize. We also have a clubhouse in the high-rise section. If you purchase a home, you can use the high-rise clubhouse." Wendy pressed, "So I can't go to the luxury health spa? I can't go play golf?" "No, I'm afraid not," the sales agent said. "Those amenities are specially prepared for our villa owners. I'm truly sorry." Harold, annoyed, stepped in. "What is this? We're planning to buy your biggest 2,600 square foot high-rise unit for $167 million. With all that money, you won't let us use the facilities inside? You know what? Forget it. We won't buy it." The sales agent smiled calmly. "Sir, let me explain. When we built this project, we were required by the city to include standard residences. We weren't allowed to develop a community of only villas. That's why we built these high-rises, but everything here is designed with our villa owners in mind. If you can't accept that, you can always buy a villa. Otherwise, this might not be the place for you. To be honest, our high-rise units are selling very well. We sold 80 on opening day alone." Harold's expression turned sour. He thought his threat would make them change their tune, but he never expected them to be so firm. The sales agent's message was crystal clear. Take it or leave it. Furious, Harold blurted out to his parents, "I'm done. Let's go. We're not buying it. We have money. We can buy a place anywhere." His mother, Yvonne, snapped, "Where do you think you're going? This is the house I want, and I'm not interested in looking anywhere else," Harold argued. "Mom, are you serious? We'd just be glorified security guards for the rich people in the villas. They're treating us like second-class citizens. What's so great about this place?" "You don't know what you're talking about," Yvonne said. "So what if the high-rise environment and facilities aren't as nice as the villa area? It's still the best high-rise development in all of Oris Hill. The villa your grandmother lives in is ancient. It was decorated years ago, and I've been sick of it for a long time." Noah, standing beside her, nodded in agreement. "Your grandma's current villa is definitely getting old. The neighborhood is out in the middle of nowhere with no amenities. If you want to grab anything late at night, you have to get in the car. This place has everything right here." Then he added, "I'm with your mother on this. We're buying here." Harold sighed. He had just been putting on a show for the sales agent. He was still annoyed, but then he spotted two familiar faces. His mood instantly changed as he called out, "Well, well, Claire, Charlie, what are you two doing here?" Claire was mortified to be spotted. As Harold's family turned to look, she forced a laugh and said, "Oh, hi. Charlie and I were just looking around." Harold immediately sneered. "Why? You think you can actually afford a high-end place like Thompson, especially with this deadbeat husband of yours?" Harold absolutely despised Charlie, and he was still bitter toward Claire, who had been the company director. Seeing the couple checking out homes in Thompson, he saw the perfect chance to mock them. When Charlie heard Harold insulting him and his wife, he sneered right back. "What? If someone like you can come look at Thompson, why can't we?" Harold sneered. "I can be here because my family can actually afford it. Can you afford to buy a house here?" Charlie just smiled. "And how do you know I can't?" Harold snorted. "Afford it? In your dreams. Do you have any idea how much these places cost? The smallest unit is 1,300 square feet, and it's $10 million. $10 million, you hear me?" Charlie laughed. "I'm not interested in the smallest one. If I'm buying the biggest." "Get real," Harold said coldly. "You think you can afford the biggest unit, the 2,600 square foot one?" Wendy laughed too. "Yeah, Charlie, you think you can afford that house? A place that big, even our family can't afford it. How could you?" Charlie looked at her, smiled, and asked, "Who said anything about buying it?" Wendy snorted. "What? Didn't you just say you were buying the biggest one? Backing down already?" Charlie laughed. "Wendy, you're thinking too small. Didn't you see the model of the villa section over there? The villas are the biggest houses here," Wendy said with disgust. "A villa? The smallest ones in there cost tens of millions, and the expensive ones are over 100 million. You couldn't afford one in 1,000 lifetimes." Charlie smiled. "What a coincidence. I happen to own one, the biggest one actually." Harold's whole family roared with laughter, pointing at Charlie. Harold said with contempt, "You bought the largest villa? Oh my God, are you trying to kill us with laughter?" The other customers in the sales office overheard Charlie and started laughing too. "Look at that loser," one said. "Talking about buying a villa? If he can afford a villa here, then I can buy the whole Thompson development," another customer chimed in. "What a load of hot air!" Claire was completely mortified. She leaned in and whispered in Charlie's ear, "Charlie, what are you saying? Have you no shame making things up like that?" Charlie just smiled and replied, "What's shameful about telling the truth?" Harold doubled over laughing. "You hear that? Even your own wife doesn't believe you. Everyone can see right through you. People like you don't even belong in this sales office." After he finished, he added maliciously, "Just wait. I'm going to have security throw you out." With that, Harold flagged down a passing sales agent. He pointed at Charlie and said, "Excuse me, miss, what's going on here? Why are you letting this kind of trash wander around? This guy has the nerve to claim he's buying your best villa. When you have people like him here, it makes those of us who can actually afford a house not want to buy." The sales agent glanced at Charlie. She could see his clothes were simple, not the attire of a wealthy man. Forget buying a villa. Even the clients buying the smallest 3-bedroom apartments were dressed more impressively than he was. The other people in the showroom started to chime in. "Yeah, get this guy out of here," one said. "He's totally killing the mood." The sales agent walked up to Charlie and said, "Sir, if you're not planning on buying a house, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Please don't disturb our other clients." Claire sighed, tugging on Charlie's sleeve. "Let's go, Charlie. We can look somewhere else." Others in the crowd started to jeer. "Yeah, get out of here, you bum. Stop embarrassing yourself." Charlie didn't move. He just smiled and said, "Do you know why none of you can afford to live in a villa? It's because you're all so short-sighted. With an attitude like that, it's impossible for you to ever live in a villa." Harold scoffed. "Charlie, you've got some nerve. Look around. Every single person in here is richer than you." Charlie raised his eyebrows, a smile playing on his lips. "Harold, you keep saying I can't afford a villa. So, if I really can afford it, what will you do?" Harold roared with laughter, pointing to the tallest high-rise building on the architectural model. he said arrogantly. "If you can afford a villa here, I, Harold, will jump right off the top of this building." Many people in the crowd shouted in agreement. "Yeah, you broke loser. If you can afford it, I'll jump too." "That's right. Count me in on that. I can't stand phonies like him." Claire had never been so embarrassed. She complained quietly to Charlie. "Charlie, what are you doing? Why are you getting into it with them? Do you have to make a scene?" Charlie smiled slightly. "My dear wife, how can you be so sure your husband is bluffing?" With that, Charlie pulled a key and an access card from his pocket. He said calmly, "Look, this is the key and access card for Villa A5. Wendy smirked. "Charlie, do you really think waving a key around is going to make us believe you? Do you think we're idiots?" Charlie tossed the key and the card to the sales agent. "Here," he said simply. "Why don't you tell them if it's real?" The sales agent immediately recognized the key and access card. When she saw they were exclusively for the Beverly Crest Villa, she was shocked. Could this man really be the owner of one of the villas? She had just been about to throw him out. If he were the real deal and he got angry, she would definitely lose her job. Thinking of this, she nervously took Charlie's card and scanned it. A computerized voice immediately announced, "Hello, distinguished owner of Building A5, Mr. Charlie Wade. Welcome to your home." The sales agent suddenly gasped. "You're Mr. Charlie?" "Yes," Charlie nodded. It seemed the White family had already transferred the villa into his name. The sales agent immediately returned the card to Charlie, her hands trembling respectfully. In a panicked voice, she said, "Mr. Charlie, I am so sorry. I had no idea you were the owner of Building A5. Please forgive me for what I did just now." Everyone present was completely stunned by the scene. Charlie was really the owner here? Was this some kind of joke? How could a guy like that afford a Thompson villa? Harold's expression was absolutely foul. What the hell was going on? Charlie bought a Thompson villa? He would sooner believe in ghosts than believe Charlie had that kind of power. But what was going on with this sales agent? She couldn't be lying, could she? And she had just scanned Charlie's card. The machine itself had announced that Charlie was the owner here. What was happening? Seeing the sales agent was nervous, afraid she'd lose her job for offending Charlie. He just waved his hand casually. "It's no big deal. I don't hold grudges." After a moment, Charlie added, "By the way, why don't you tell these short-sighted people a little bit about Villa A5? The sales agent quickly turned to the others and said, "Our Thompson Villa community is divided into 4 types, A, B, C, and D. The best is type A, which is the largest model. It has 3 stories above ground and 2 basement levels. There's a private elevator inside. The total living space is over 10,000 square feet, and it comes with front and back yards that are thousands of square feet. The price is over $100 million. It is the most expensive villa in our entire Thompson development and in all of Oris Hill." When those words came out, everyone's jaw dropped. Charlie, who dressed in ordinary clothes and whose family lived in a modest apartment, owned a villa that sold for over $100 million? Harold's face turned extremely ugly. His sister and parents were practically seething with jealousy. Wendy asked in disbelief, "Charlie, how did you get a villa here?" Charlie smiled faintly. "Someone gave it to me." "Is there a problem?" "Why you?" Wendy was furious. She was so ambitious and had such high hopes for her own life, but she didn't have a chance in hell of living in a luxurious villa like this. Why did Charlie get to live here? Charlie couldn't be bothered to answer her. Instead, he looked at her brother Harold and smiled. "Harold, weren't you just saying you were going to jump off the building? When are you planning on doing that?" Harold's face was pale and twisted with anger. He clenched his fists and spat. "Charlie, stop messing with me. I still don't believe you can afford this villa. And I especially don't believe someone would just give it to you. Tell me, how did you get this villa?" Charlie just shook his head and smiled, then said to the crowd, "See? This is what it looks like when you can't admit you're wrong." Then he turned back to Harold. "Harold, with your abilities, you might be worthy of buying a regular high-rise apartment, so you can work as a security guard for people like us who live in the villas. You are not worthy of living in a place like this, let alone knowing how I got it. It's none of your business. All you need to know is that this is a place you could never afford in your entire life. You." Harold's expression was absolutely venomous. It was the first time he had ever been so thoroughly insulted by Charlie. But the worst part was, he couldn't even think of a comeback. How could he? His family had struggled to buy a 2,400 square foot apartment, and even that was a stretch. They had been hesitating and second-guessing it. But Charlie actually had the largest, most expensive villa here. The gap between them was just too massive. He had been completely and utterly humiliated by Charlie. It made his blood boil. He gritted his teeth and said with a dark look, "Charlie, you've got some nerve. You get a huge villa like this and you don't even think to invite us over? Do you even have any respect for the Wilson family anymore?" Charlie smiled and said, "Weren't you always saying I'm not really part of the Wilson family? So why would you expect an invitation?" With that, Charlie turned to Claire. "Honey, since we're here, why don't we go see our new villa?" Claire blurted out, "What the hell is going on here?" Charlie smiled. "I'll explain everything to you slowly, later." Just after he spoke, he suddenly heard a familiar voice. "Oh, if it isn't my eldest brother and sister-in-law. Are you buying a house in Thompson? How amazing!" It was Elaine, and with her was Jacob. Charlie and Claire were a little surprised. Why were they both here? Claire hurried forward and asked, "Mom? Dad? Why are you here?" Elaine said, "Your Noah and Yvonne called us. They said they wanted to look at a house in Thompson and asked us to come along and give them some pointers." As Elaine spoke, she glanced at Charlie, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. The truth was, she didn't want to come at all. Just yesterday, she'd gotten into a fight with her daughter and threatened to move out of their old house. Then, out of the blue, she got a call from Noah's family asking her and Jacob to come along while they looked at houses. Look at houses? Weren't they just calling them over to rub it in their faces that they could afford to buy in Thompson? Elaine was fuming, but she didn't dare disrespect Noah, the head of their side of the family, so she had to rush over with her husband just to play along. That's why she was so upset with Charlie. If she'd found a more capable son-in-law, she might have been the one living in Thompson first. At that moment, she looked at her sister-in-law, Yvonne, put on a flattering smile and gushed, "Yvonne, you are just incredible. Buying a house in Thompson, just like that. I'm so jealous. Who knows how long we'll be stuck in our old place. A luxurious house like this in Thompson is just a dream. The one you bought is 2,400 square feet, right? I doubt our family could save that much money in 50 years. Even though she was furious with Noah's family, Elaine knew she had to suck up to them, so she laid the flattery on thick. Harold's mother, Yvonne's expression turned ugly. She glared at Elaine and said coldly, "Elaine, what's that supposed to mean? Are you looking down on us?" Yvonne was about to explode. The whole reason she'd invited Jacob and Elaine was so they could watch her family buy a magnificent Thompson villa. She wanted to feel superior and rub it in their faces. But she never expected that their own son-in-law, Charlie, was so capable. He'd actually gotten a Thompson villa. It was infuriating, and she was insanely jealous. And now here was Elaine deliberately complimenting her on buying a 2,400 square foot place. Wasn't that just making fun of her? Her family had a villa worth over $100 million, and she was saying she envied me? Saying you'll never live in a luxurious house like this? It's like she's putting a curse on us. Elaine had no idea what was happening. She had tried to flatter Yvonne the moment she arrived, but Yvonne accused her of looking down on them. Elaine felt completely wronged. She'd tried to kiss up to her sister-in-law, and in return, she'd been treated with contempt. Look down on her? She wouldn't dare look down on her even if she were on her knees. So, Elaine swallowed her pride and continued to flatter. Oh, Yvonne, compared to you, I'm nothing. It's like a flashlight next to the sun. Why would I ever look down on you? Look at you, living the good life, about to move into a Thompson estate. And then look at me. I'm still stuck in that tiny, run-down place. It's practically falling apart. How could that ever compare to your Thompson estate? Of course I'm jealous of you. Yvonne Garcia got even more furious at Elaine's words, so much so that she was speechless. Her husband, Noah, standing beside her, gritted his teeth and snapped, Elaine, do you get some kick out of mocking Yvonne like this? It's just a villa. What are you so arrogant about? Then he turned to his brother Jacob and said coldly, Jacob, do you and your wife even consider me your brother anymore? You get a villa, and now you're acting all high and mighty. Jacob was completely stunned. Villa? What villa? Brother, are you the one buying a villa? Wow, you must be loaded. When Noah heard this, he assumed Jacob was deliberately messing with him. He got furious and snapped, Jacob, really? Why would you say something like that? Is it because you get to live in a Thompson villa now? Are you just trying to rub it in my face? Jacob was stunned. What? I live in a Thompson villa? Big brother, aren't you the one who's always making fun of me about stuff like this? Elaine was also confused. Noah, are you sure you've got this right? There must be some kind of misunderstanding. Noah pointed at Charlie and said with a sour expression, Your son-in-law is the one who got a Thompson villa. Why don't you let him tell you all about it? Elaine and Jacob were both speechless. They stared at Charlie in disbelief and asked, Charlie, is what your uncle said true? Did you really get a Thompson villa? Charlie nodded. Mom, Dad, it's true. Someone gave me a villa for helping them out. Who gave it to you? Elaine blurted out, her eyes lighting up with pure joy. Charlie said, I helped a friend with some energy alignment issues, and he gave me the villa as a thank you. Elaine was practically bouncing with excitement. Well, take us to see it. Gosh, a Thompson villa. I never even dreamed this could happen. Just then, Claire pulled Charlie aside and whispered, Charlie, what's really going on? Charlie gave her a small smile and whispered back, whispering, Someone really did give me a villa. If you don't believe me, let's go check it out right now. When Elaine looked over at Noah and his wife, she felt a wave of superiority wash over her. So, you buy a big apartment and drag me along to look at it? Well, now I'm the one moving into the Thompson Villa area. You've looked down on me for so long, but now the tables have turned. So she put on a deliberate smile and said, Oh, Noah, Yvonne, since you're all here with Harold and Wendy, why don't we all go take a look at the villa together? What do you think? Noah wanted nothing more than to leave right then, but his wife Yvonne grabbed his arm. She winked at him, then said to Elaine, All right, in that case, let's go have a look. As she spoke, she leaned in and whispered into her husband's ear, Later, I'll take some photos and videos to show Lady Wilson. Once she sees this villa, she'll naturally make them let her move in. Get it? Noah's eyes lit up. His wife had a brilliant plan. This was perfect. So Charlie led the group into the Thompson Villa area. The moment they stepped inside, everyone started looking around. The atmosphere in the villa area was leagues better than the high-rise apartments outside. It was incredibly elegant. So Charlie, where's this villa of yours? Wendy asked loudly, deliberately trying to embarrass him. Charlie pulled out the key, walked right past Wendy with a smile, and headed for the villa directly in front of them. "This is it," he said. "Unit A5. With everyone watching, Charlie kept a straight face, put the key in the lock, and opened the villa door with a gentle push. The door swung open smoothly, revealing a breathtaking garden inside. The lock turned. Wendy was stunned. Harold and his parents were completely speechless. Even Claire held her breath, rubbing her eyes hard as she stared straight ahead. In the center of the garden stood a magnificent and spacious luxury villa, complete with gazebos, flowers, and trees. "This is insane!" Noah was the first to snap out of it, exclaiming in shock. Harold's face turned ugly. "Who would give a loser like you such an amazing villa?" he said angrily. "I don't believe it." "Believe it or not, it was given to me," Charlie said, not bothering to explain any further. Wendy shot Charlie a hateful look, huffed in anger, and said sourly, "Charlie, what makes you think you deserve a villa this expensive?" Charlie just smiled and replied, "That has nothing to do with you." The group stood in stunned silence in the entryway. No one could wrap their head around it. The owner of the most expensive villa in all of Oris Hill was actually Charlie. For Wendy and Noah, this was completely unacceptable. It felt like they had been slapped across the face in public, and they wished they could just dig a hole and disappear into it. The reality of the situation was crushing them. Just then, an older gentleman walked out of the villa. He came straight over to Charlie and asked respectfully, "Hello, are you Mr. Charlie Wade?" Charlie nodded. "I am." "And you are?" The older man said, "Hello, Mr. Charlie. I am Mr. White's housekeeper, and I'm in charge of this villa. You can call me Gavin York. I normally look after the property and keep it clean." "Gavin York?" Wendy, standing off to the side, stared at him, completely stunned. Her brain just short-circuited. Wasn't he her fiancé Gerald's housekeeper? What was he doing here? Did this villa belong to the White family? If so, why would they give it to Charlie? Wendy quickly asked, "Gavin, what's going on? Is this villa owned by the White family?" Gavin replied, "It used to be, but now it belongs to Mr. Charlie." With that, Gavin looked at Charlie again and asked, "Mr. Charlie, the renovations inside aren't finished yet. When are you planning to move in? I can have the workers speed things up and get everything ready for you." Charlie said calmly, "We won't be moving in for a while. Just keep taking care of the villa. I'll call you before we're ready." "Yes, Mr. Charlie." After Gavin finished speaking, he bowed to Charlie again, then stepped aside, waiting for him to enter. Wendy's eyes looked like they were about to pop out of her head, and the rest of the Wilson family relatives were just as shocked. "The housekeeper for the White family?" Wendy said, still in a daze. "As in Gerald's family?" Charlie looked at her, smiled, and said, "Yes, it's your fiancé's family's house. His father gave it to me." "What?" Wendy's brain felt like it was about to explode. This villa belonged to her fiancé's family? That meant it could have been hers one day. But why was it given to Charlie? This was supposed to be my villa. Wendy's parents were just as confused and angry. The White family was their daughter's future in-laws. Their villa should have naturally gone to their daughter. Why give it to Charlie? It made no sense. Yvonne blurted out, asking Wendy, "Wendy, what is going on with this?" "Did you know about the White family's villa?" Wendy shook her head over and over. "I don't know. I've never heard Gerald talk about it." Yvonne immediately shouted, "Call Gerald right now. Ask him what's going on." "Yeah, I have to." Wendy immediately pulled out her phone and called Gerald. The second he picked up, she asked, "Gerald, does your family own a villa in Thompson?" Gerald replied, "Yeah, we have one." "Why?" Wendy said, a hint of resentment in her voice. "Why have I never heard you mention it? Was that supposed to be our house?" "No," Gerald said. "My uncle bought that villa for my grandpa." He loves the atmosphere at Thompson, so there's no way he would have given it to us. After a moment, Gerald asked, "How did you find out about this?" Tears of frustration started to stream down Wendy's face. "You won't believe this, but your uncle gave the villa away." "He gave it away?" Gerald blurted out. "Who did he give it to?" Wendy broke down, sobbing as she said, "He gave it to Charlie. My loser brother-in-law, Charlie." Gerald was stunned too. The villa in Thompson was the most valuable property the entire White family owned. The house belonged to Salman, Gerald's uncle, and the current head of the White family. Salman, Fred White's father, was the head of the family, while Gerald's dad was just second in command. It wasn't just Gerald. Even his dad was dying to have that villa. But there was no way. Their side of the family just couldn't afford something that expensive. Hearing that his uncle had given the villa to Charlie, Gerald was shocked and completely thrown off. He immediately said to Wendy, "Hang on, I'm going to ask my uncle about this." Wendy hung up, gritted her teeth, and glared at Charlie. "Charlie, what kind of trick did you pull to get this villa from Mr. Salman?" Charlie said casually, "Mr. Salman practically begged me to take this villa." "That's a lie," Wendy snapped. "You have no connection to the White family. Why would he give you such an expensive house for no reason? You must have used some dirty trick." Just then, Gerald called Wendy back. "Wendy, my uncle seemed busy. He said one thing and then hung up on me." Charlie smirked, pulled out his phone, put it on speaker, and dialed Salman's number. The call connected instantly. Wendy froze, stunned. "Mr. Wade!" Salman's voice was practically dripping with praise. "You must have seen the villa in Thompson by now. I do hope you're satisfied." Charlie replied, "I saw the villa. Overall, it's not bad. I like it." Salman quickly said, "Mr. Wade, I'm so glad you like it." Charlie said calmly, "I just called to let you know that I'm very happy with the villa. If there's anything you need, just let me know, and I'll do everything I can to take care of it. I want to make sure you're completely satisfied, Mr. Wade." The crowd around them was silent, completely in shock. She couldn't believe it. Salman actually gave this villa to Charlie. Why? The idea that Salman, a man her own fiancé had to treat with respect, was now acting like a lapdog for a loser like Charlie was unbearable. Her face burned with embarrassment. Finally, she couldn't hold it in any longer and yelled at Charlie's cell phone. "Mr. Salman, this is Gerald's fiancée, Wendy. You wouldn't just give this villa to Charlie for no reason. What's going on?" "Excuse me, who are you? And who gave you the right to question my personal business?" Salman said coldly. Wendy's face felt like it was on fire. Charlie said calmly, "Salman, you should probably explain it to them, otherwise they're going to think I'm a liar." "Of course," Salman said right away. "Since Mr. Wade asked, I'll make it clear to everyone. I owe Mr. Wade a huge debt, so I gave him this villa as a gift. And if any of you clowns dare to question Mr. Wade again, I will make you regret it." Wendy was completely humiliated. She couldn't believe she had been scolded so harshly. Her face was bright red, and she looked like she was about to burst into tears. Seeing how upset Wendy was, Noah couldn't just stand by. He tried to smooth things over, clearing his throat and saying, "Mr. Salman, Wendy is still young. She was just curious. She didn't mean any harm." Salman completely ignored him and said respectfully, "Mr. Wade, is there anything else you need me to explain?" "That's all," Charlie nodded. "Then I won't bother you any further. Please call me if you need anything at all." Charlie just grunted in acknowledgement and hung up the phone. Charlie, is this really the villa the White family gave you?" Jacob finally processed it, his mouth hanging open in surprise. "Dad, it is," Charlie smiled. "But you," Jacob stammered, feeling like he was in a dream. Claire quickly helped him to a chair. "Dad, sit down and take a minute. Now that Mr. White explained everything, everyone knows how Charlie got the villa. He came by it honestly." Claire emphasized the words, "came by it honestly." aiming her comment directly at the Wilson relatives. Yvonne clutched her chest in disbelief and muttered, "The White family is really something else. If they're just giving away a multi-million-dollar mansion, why not give it to us?" She wasn't the only one who couldn't believe it. Everyone else found it incredible, and Harold was burning with jealousy. They couldn't afford a mansion like that in 10 lifetimes. But why did a golden opportunity like this fall into the lap of a loser like Charlie? What kind of stupid luck is that? Noah's face was pale. It wasn't just that Salman had ignored him. He felt that this villa should have belonged to his daughter one day, and now, in the blink of an eye, it was in Charlie's hands. He just couldn't accept it. He looked at his crying daughter, then back at Charlie, feeling a fresh wave of anger. He'd looked down on Jacob for years, and now he was being shown up by his live-in son-in-law. What a disgrace! Noah said sternly, "Charlie, tell everyone. What kind of favor does Mr. White owe you? Don't tell me you went and used the Wilson family name to get something from him." Charlie said calmly, "That's my personal business. I don't see how it concerns you." He turned and said to Gavin, "It's getting late. Please show our guests out." Noah might call himself an elder, but in Charlie's eyes, he was less than nothing. Gavin nodded respectfully and said to the crowd, "I'm sorry, everyone. Right this way. I'll see you all to the door." Noah huffed in anger, completely humiliated, and stormed out. Wendy shot Charlie a look full of pure hatred before following her father out. The rest of the family was practically falling apart. They had always looked down on the live-in son-in-law, and now he had struck it rich. It was more than they could handle. Gavin closed the door behind them and quietly retreated to the guest quarters, leaving Charlie's family in peace. Once Harold's family was gone, Claire turned to Charlie. "Okay, Charlie, now you have to tell us the truth. What did the White family owe you for?" Charlie paused for a moment, trying to figure out how to explain it. A few days ago, the White family had brought Owen Pierce into their circle, hoping to dominate the Orris Hills metaphysics scene. But Owen Pierce ended up getting killed by his own thunderclap charm. The White family was terrified that Charlie would blame them too, so they sent him the villa as a peace offering. They were afraid that if Charlie got angry, he would kill them. After a moment, Charlie said, "I helped the White family with some energy alignment, so they gave me this villa." "What?" Claire and her parents were shocked. "Charlie, you're doing energy alignment for people?" Claire's eyes widened. Charlie nodded. "Yeah." Claire asked, confused, "Where did you learn it?" Charlie smiled and said, "On TV. You know, from those mystic arts shows." Claire panicked and blurted out, "Are you crazy? You watched a TV show and now you're pretending to be an expert? And you accepted a villa this expensive for it?" Seeing Claire so panicked, Charlie smiled reassuringly. "Honey, don't worry about the villa. Mr. White isn't going to cause any trouble." Jacob kept shaking his head. "No, this is wrong. Last time you helped the Knox family with their energy alignment, and they spent millions on those shells. Now the White family is coming to you? These are two of the most powerful families in Orris Hill City. You barely know anything about energy alignment. Sooner or later, this is going to blow up in our faces. If they decide you've scammed them, our whole family will be dragged down with you," he added hurriedly. "You should give the villa back to the White family right away. Otherwise, if they come looking to settle the score later, we're all done for." Just then, Elaine blurted out, "Give it back! Are you kidding me? This huge villa was a gift to Charlie from Mr. White. He didn't steal it. Why on earth would we give it back? From now on, This is our home, our villa. Elaine had never dreamed in her life that she would get to live in such a luxurious place. Now that they had it, the thought of giving it back, like Jacob suggested, was almost too much to bear. It felt like he was trying to kill her. Claire cried out in frustration, "Mom, we can't just accept something like this. It's going to cause huge problems later on." "Trouble my butt," Elaine snorted. She then looked at Charlie, her tone shifting completely. "Wow, Charlie, I never knew you had it in you to land us a huge villa." A huge smile spread across Elaine's face. "You really are a good son-in-law after all. If you'd started doing this energy alignment stuff for people sooner, we'd have been rich a long time ago." Jacob couldn't take it anymore. "Honey, this isn't about the villa itself. Even if Charlie did do some energy alignment for them, how can he accept a whole mansion for it? What happens if the White family changes their mind later? Won't they come after us?" Elaine practically jumped 3 feet in the air, pointing a finger right in Jacob's face. "Don't you start with that nonsense. I have been poor my entire life with you. Now I finally have the chance to live in a big mansion, and you want to throw it away? I'm telling you, if you dare make Charlie return this villa, I will divorce you. You're just throwing away a golden opportunity. You have no sense about money." Jacob was so furious he could barely speak, and he collapsed onto the sofa. Charlie smiled. "Dad, don't worry. No one is taking this villa away." "Good son-in-law. You really know what you're doing." Elaine beamed, walking around the room, touching the antiques and admiring the paintings and artistic penmanship. She was overjoyed. "Just wait until Noah sees this. Now I live in a huge mansion, while they can only afford a little apartment somewhere. After 30 long years in that rundown house, it's finally our turn." Claire couldn't listen to this anymore. She pulled Charlie aside and whispering, "Tell me the truth. What is really going on?" Charlie said, "Honey, don't worry. I promise. I came by it honestly. It's just, I can't really explain everything right now. I'll tell you the whole story when I get the chance, in the future. If you say there's a good reason, then I believe you." Claire thought for a moment before adding, "But please, don't do any more of this energy alignment stuff so Dad and I don't have to worry." Charlie seized the moment, taking her hand. "Don't worry," he said softly. "I won't do anything that makes you worry. Besides, your dad keeps bugging us about having kids. What would you do if something happened to me?" "Oh, stop it." Claire blushed and quickly pulled her hand away. Just then, Elaine came happily down the stairs. "When I get back from my trip next week, I'm going to call everyone I know and have them come over to see the huge villa I bought." Claire said, "Mom, the villa was a gift to Charlie." Elaine waved a hand dismissively. "He's our son-in-law, which means his villa is our villa too." Elaine triumphantly waved the bracelet on her wrist. "I already posted it on my social media feed. Look, this bracelet and the huge villa. Everyone is going to be so jealous." Charlie glanced at Elaine's bracelet. Christian had given it to him, and he'd planned on giving it to Claire. He hated that his mother-in-law had ended up with it instead. Gerald stood in the hall, relaying what he'd heard over the phone to his father. After he finished, he hesitated, then looked up. "Dad, has Uncle Solomon lost his mind? A villa that expensive and he just gives it away to that idiot Charlie without ever even staying in it? You have to talk some sense into him." Gerald's father sat in an imposing Grand Master's chair, his expression serious. When Gerald first reported that his uncle had given the villa to Charlie, he hadn't believed it. He'd even called his older brother Solomon to confirm. He was shocked to find out it was true. What's more, Solomon had been vague about why he gave the villa away, just saying he owed Charlie a favor. What kind of favor could make the notoriously stingy Solomon give away such an expensive mansion? Gerald's father said with a cold expression, "I've already spoken to your uncle. He seems very set on his decision. Getting him to take the villa back is unlikely." Gerald gritted his teeth. "Dad, do you think there's something up with this Charlie guy? We've been looking into him for so long, but we can't find anything real on him. It's strange." Gerald's father thought for a moment, then said slowly, "Your uncle has been a sharp businessman his whole life. He wouldn't do something like this for Charlie for no reason. So whatever is going on with Charlie, the bottom line is this. You are not to provoke him anytime soon. I'll talk to your uncle tonight and see if I can find out more about this guy's background. Okay. Meanwhile, Noah and his family were complaining to Mrs. Wilson. Wendy sniffled, tears in her eyes. Grandma, I don't know how he did it, but Charlie somehow tricked the White family into giving him their villa in Thompson. It's worth over $100 million. And after he got it, he didn't even have the decency to offer it to you. He just kicked our family out. How could he do that? Mrs. Wilson sat at the head of the table, her expression stern. She let out a cold snort, clearly displeased. That boy Charlie has no respect for the rules. Exactly, Mom. He's shameless, Noah said with a serious face. As a son-in-law of the Wilson family, he should know that anything good that comes to this family should go to you first. Your villa is in a bad location, and it's old and outdated. It should have been replaced a long time ago. If he had any respect for you, he would have immediately offered you the villa. He should have let you enjoy it first. The moment he said that, Mrs. Wilson's eyes lit up. She had lived in the Wilson villa for over 10 years. While it looked impressive from the outside, it was an old property. On top of that, it was in a bad neighborhood, so it would probably only sell for $10 to $20 million. The Thompson villa was 100 times better. Mrs. Wilson was extremely greedy, but since she was broke, she could never afford a place like that. But now, hearing from Noah that Charlie had the biggest villa in the Thompson estates, she was convinced that she, as the head of the family, was the one who deserved to live there. While Mrs. Wilson was daydreaming about living in the Thompson villa, Noah rubbed his hands together and said with a sigh, Mom, I'm thinking about sending someone to Eastcliff soon to invite Elsa's family for a visit. Then we can subtly suggest that they get Elsa and Harold engaged. What do you think? The Gardner family, Mrs. Wilson sighed. The last time, Harold just abandoned Elsa and ran off. I'm sure she has a very low opinion of him now. Noah said, I think that's a minor issue. Our families complement each other. What really matters to them is future business prospects. Even though the Wilson family isn't on the same level as the Gardner family, we landed that contract with the M. Grand Group. Our future collaboration looks promising. The Gardner family might just agree to the marriage. Mrs. Wilson thought for a moment, then nodded. In that case, go ahead and invite them. See if the Gardner family is interested in visiting us here in Orris Hill. Okay. Noah quickly added, Mom, the Gardner family is a big deal. If we don't have a respectable villa, we'll lose face in front of them. That can't happen. He continued, if you can get that Thompson villa from Charlie, then when the Gardner family visits, seeing a place like that will make them look at our Wilson family with more respect, don't you think? Mrs. Wilson nodded. Appearances are everything. Living in a villa worth over $100 million would definitely boost the family's reputation. Besides, she was already secretly wanting Charlie's Thompson villa. This was the perfect excuse to go after it. So she announced majestically, have Jacob's family come to the old house tomorrow. I'll speak to them myself. Harold and his family exchanged delighted glances. Jacob's family depended on the company for their income, and they were under the family's control. When Mrs. Wilson gives an order, how could they possibly refuse? If Mrs. Wilson demands they hand over the villa, would they dare to say a single word against it? Knowing Mrs. Wilson's favoritism towards her own household, once that villa is out of Charlie's hands, it will belong to them. Early the next morning, Jacob, his daughter, and his son-in-law rushed over to the Wilson family's old house. Claire opened the car door and asked, Dad, Grandma specifically asked for you. Did she say what it was about? We'll find out when we get there, Jacob said. And your Uncle Noah is going to be there too. Charlie frowned. Seeing the way this was shaping up, it didn't seem like anything good was about to happen. Claire said, "What else could it be? I bet it's about the villa. Charlie will explain everything about the villa to your grandma in a little while," Jacob said, not thinking much of it. He got into the car and urged Charlie to drive. At 9:30, the car pulled up to the Wilsons' old house. The family walked into the main hall, and Charlie glanced around, frowning slightly. He saw Mrs. Wilson sitting in the main chair at the head of the room, with Noah standing right beside her. Harold and his sister stood on the other side. On top of that, several older relatives from the Wilson family were seated along both sides of the room, and a few of the younger family members stood behind them, all of them staring at Jacob's family as they entered. It felt like they were setting up a full-blown family tribunal. Jacob, true to his nature, was an honest and straightforward man. He wasn't one for confrontation and couldn't argue his way out of a paper bag. Seeing the setup, he seemed to shrink into himself. He called out, "Mom," nervously, then forced a smile and said, "Noah?" Noah acted like he didn't hear him and just ignored him. Mrs. Wilson gave a slight nod. Jacob asked tentatively, "Mom, you wanted to see me?" "Let me ask you," Mrs. Wilson said coldly. "What's this about the Thompson villa?" Jacob quickly explained. "Mr. White gave that villa to Charlie." Charlie helped him with some energy alignment advice. "Energy alignment?" Harold sneered sarcastically. "If you can get a luxury mansion just by giving some tips, then maybe we should all quit our jobs and become con artists." A few quiet chuckles went around the room. Hearing his relatives mock him, Jacob felt embarrassed and could only manage a weak, awkward laugh. But then Noah chuckled and stepped in to smooth things over. "Mom, it doesn't matter how Charlie got it. Mr. White himself explained that it was a gift to him. That settles it. Jacob doesn't need to explain anything." Jacob shot Noah a grateful look, feeling a bit surprised. His older brother usually blew him off, so for him to step in and defend him was completely unexpected. Noah smiled slightly and turned to Mrs. Wilson. "Mom, you don't need to ask how the villa was acquired. Anyway, Mr. White himself said it was given to Charlie, so we have nothing to worry about." "Yes," Mrs. Wilson nodded and turned to Jacob. "Jacob, your older brother wants his son Harold to marry Elsa from the Gardner family. What are your thoughts on that?" "That's wonderful news," Jacob said with a smile. "The Gardner family is very prominent. If we can form a union with them, it would be a huge help to the Wilson family." "It is a good thing," Mrs. Wilson said with a long sigh. "But our family, compared to the Gardner family, is leagues below them. Even if your brother wants this, we don't really have the standing to approach them." Jacob nodded seriously and spoke his mind. "Mom, to be honest, I don't think Elsa would be very interested." Harold's face turned sour, and he blurted out, "Uncle, what's that supposed to mean?" Only then did Jacob realize he'd said the wrong thing. He quickly tried to backtrack. "Oh, that's not what I meant. I just meant that compared to the Gardner family, our Wilson family is, well, we're not on their level." Mrs. Wilson said coolly, "Appearances are everything. You have to look the part to get the part. If we're living in the best villa in Orris Hill when the Gardner family visits, we'll make the right kind of impression." "Mom, are you thinking about moving?" Jacob asked, surprised. Mrs. Wilson said casually, "I'd love to move somewhere nicer, but unfortunately, I don't have that kind of money." Hearing this, Jacob quickly said, "If you need money, Mom, I still have that $1 million. Mrs. Wilson snorted coldly. "A villa can cost tens of millions, even 100 million. What good is 1 million? Then she deliberately changed the subject. "Jacob, doesn't your family have a brand new villa in Thompson just sitting there?" "Yes," Jacob said, confused. "What about it?" "What about it?" Mrs. Wilson shot back, looking annoyed. "I am your mother. How can you stand to watch me live in this old house for so many years? You have a brand new Thompson villa, so shouldn't you bring it to me? You should honor your mother and let me be the one to live in it first." Jacob was stunned for a second, then quickly said, "Mom, the villa was a gift to Charlie from the White family, not me." Mrs. Wilson lost her patience and dropped the act. She said directly, "Charlie is married into the Wilson family, so the villa the White family gave him belongs to us. As the head of this family, don't I have the right to live in a Wilson family villa?" Charlie, standing nearby, let out a small sneer. He hadn't said a word until now, knowing this family meeting couldn't be for anything good. And there it was. Mrs. Wilson just wanted his villa. It finally clicked for Jacob. He started sweating, completely speechless, and glanced back at Charlie with a look of pure embarrassment. Noah said with a smug grin, "Jacob, you're his father-in-law. If he won't even listen to you, doesn't that make him out of control? What kind of authority do you even have in your own home?" "Exactly," Mrs. Wilson nodded, satisfied. Her eyes were greedy, and she couldn't hide her excitement at the thought of living in a huge villa in the Thompson community. Claire couldn't stay quiet any longer. She said coldly, "Grandma, that villa doesn't belong to the Wilson family. If you want it, you have to ask Charlie. If he doesn't want to give it up, then nobody has the right to demand it." Mrs. Wilson frowned at Claire, clearly unhappy. "Who told you to speak?" She turned her cold gaze to Charlie and said bluntly, "That villa was a gift from the White family. You're just a house husband. You have no right to it. Tomorrow, go to the company's finance department and pick up $100,000. That's your reward for handing over the villa." Mrs. Wilson's tone was final, leaving no room for argument. Noah added, "Charlie, $100,000 is a lot of money. For a freeloader like you? I bet you've never even seen that much cash before." Charlie slowly lifted his head and snorted. "For $100,000, you want to force me to sell a villa in Thompson that's worth over $130 million? Mrs. Wilson, you have no shame at all." His voice cut through the room, clear and loud enough for everyone to hear. The whole hall fell silent. Everyone stared at Charlie, completely shocked. Even Claire was shocked. She never expected Charlie to be so bold. Mrs. Wilson's face turned red with rage. She slammed her hand on the table again and screamed, "You punk! How dare you stand up to me? Someone get this trash out of here!" So disrespectful. The absolute nerve. Harold added coldly, "Grandma, I think it's time he learned his place. He's just a house husband, and he dares to talk like that? It's completely out of line." Jacob looked over at Charlie, but was too afraid to say a word. "Respect?" Charlie sneered and said coldly, "You earn respect. You give it to people who deserve it. Out of everyone here, besides my father-in-law, who exactly deserves my respect?" He had put up with this greedy bunch for far too long. Mrs. Wilson, Jacob's own mother, constantly berated her second son and never gave him a second thought. And Noah, Jacob's older brother, had always looked down on him. Not only that, but he was always trying to take everything his brother had. As for Charlie, the Wilson family's house husband, they had never given him the time of day. They never took him seriously at all. Only Jacob, out of a misplaced sense of family loyalty, couldn't bring himself to give up on them. And they always bullied Claire, conveniently forgetting she was the one who secured the partnership with the Emgrand Group. The whole Wilson family was constantly walking all over them, bullying them whenever they felt like it. Charlie glanced at his wife and had decided to let it slide, for now. But he never imagined they'd be shameless enough to try and take their villa. "Charlie, how dare you talk to Grandma like that?" Harold shouted angrily. "I'm going to teach you a lesson today." "You?" Charlie sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "Harold, To me, you're just a pathetic little bug, as insignificant as an ant." The nerve! Mrs. Wilson shot up from her chair and yelled, "Charlie, get on your knees and apologize, then sign over the villa, and I might forgive you this time. Otherwise, I'll make Claire divorce you right now. I'll throw you out of the Wilson house and leave you on the street. You won't survive out there." Claire, who had been looking down, snapped her head up. She stood in front of Charlie and said, "I don't agree. Are you my grandmother, or are you the head of the Wilson family? You push my dad around and you bully Charlie. Do you even consider us your family anymore? I will never divorce Charlie." "You!" Mrs. Wilson was so furious she could barely speak. She pointed a finger right at Claire's nose and then screamed at Jacob, "Look at your wonderful daughter, turning her back on her own family. Make her kneel down with him." Jacob slowly raised his head, staring directly at Mrs. Wilson. His usual timidness was gone, replaced by a look of deep frustration. Noah was stunned for a moment. His younger brother was usually a total pushover, completely controlled by his wife at home. He never dared to talk back to Mrs. Wilson. But now he was staring her down? He shouted, "Jacob, what are you waiting for? Tell your daughter to get on her knees and help Mom calm down." But Jacob, usually the most timid one, was flushed with anger. "Brother, the villa was a gift to Charlie. What he does with it is his business, and you don't get a say in who my daughter marries. Why do you think you have any right to take it? You ungrateful son." Mrs. Wilson trembled with anger. She snatched the coffee mug from the table and hurled it at Jacob. Jacob didn't even flinch. The mug hit him square on the head with a sickening thud, instantly raising a large welt. Hot coffee streamed down his face, and wet leaves clung to his clothes. He remained motionless. "Dad!" Claire cried out, her voice breaking. Her eyes instantly welled with tears. She could take their insults, but she wouldn't stand by while they humiliated her father. Jacob let the coffee drip down his face. He lifted his head, his expression cold, and said, "Mom, if that's all, we're leaving." Then he turned to Charlie and Claire. "Let's go." He walked out the door without a single glance back. Claire wiped her tears, shot one last bitter look at everyone in the hall, and followed him without a moment's hesitation. Charlie didn't even bother to look at them. He just turned and left. Noah was fuming, practically shaking with rage as he watched them go. Noah and Mrs. Wilson had stayed up last night, carefully planning this whole thing. Today he'd even brought in the more respected members of the Wilson family, staging a kind of family trial. It was part temptation, part threat. The goal was to get Jacob to hand over the villa willingly, and if he wouldn't do it on his own, they'd force him. In Noah's mind, Jacob was always the biggest coward. Just a sharp word from their mother usually made him tremble. He was sure Jacob would hand over the villa without a fight. As for Claire, he couldn't care less. What right does a married woman have to say anything, especially one married to a good-for-nothing like him? And as for that loser Charlie, forget about it. The house husband had zero standing in the Wilson family. He didn't even have the right to speak. If they told him to hand over the villa, he was expected to do it, no questions asked. However, Noah never expected Jacob to get so bold that he'd dare talk back to their mother. And Claire, her granddaughter, completely ignored her. Even that good-for-nothing Charlie had the nerve to point in her face and call her shameless. That family of his is completely out of line. Noah gritted his teeth, turning back to his mother. "Mom, you can't just let them walk out of here like this. If you let them get away with this today, soon enough they'll be walking all over the rest of the Wilson family. What authority will you have left in this family?" Mrs. Wilson's face was a mask of pure fury. She had an obsessive need to control everyone's life. After her husband died, she kept the entire Wilson family under her thumb and wouldn't let anyone challenge her power. But she never imagined she'd face such defiance from Claire's family of 3, and it filled her with rage. She roared hysterically, "It's a disgrace that the Wilson family produced a branch like yours. You are all part of my family, and as long as I am alive, you will listen to me." With that, Mrs. Wilson shouted, "Lock the doors! It's time for some family discipline." She had absolute authority in the Wilson family, and Jacob, who was usually so submissive, had dared to defy her today. His daughter and even his son-in-law were completely ignoring her. She couldn't believe Jacob had raised such a disrespectful child. If they weren't severely punished today, what would become of her authority as head of the family? Besides, if they were allowed to just walk away, how could she get her hands on the Thompson estate? She had lived her whole life and never dreamed she would get to live in a villa like that. Now that it belonged to her son's family, she was determined to take it and enjoy it for herself. Therefore, no matter what, they had to be forced to surrender the villa. Even if they left the Wilson family, the villa had to stay. At her command, a group of bodyguards and hired hands immediately surrounded the 3 of them. Charlie stood in the courtyard of the old mansion, his presence commanding. He glared at the bodyguards and shouted, "Whoever takes another step forward will regret it." "You piece of trash, you think you're tough here?" one of the bodyguards yelled, lunging at Charlie with an eyebrow stick. Charlie's eyes were like ice. He snatched the eyebrow stick from the man's hand and, with a flick of his wrist, struck the man's leg. The bodyguard felt a sharp, cracking pain in the back of his knee. His leg buckled, and he collapsed to the ground in front of Charlie, his leg clearly broken. Charlie didn't even glance down at him. With a simple squeeze, he snapped the eyebrow stick in 2 with a sharp crack. He then tossed the broken pieces to the ground. Everyone in the yard was shocked. The stick was made from solid golden oak, which is incredibly tough. Even 2 strong men would have a hard time breaking it. But in Charlie's hands, it snapped like a dry twig. It was that easy. After studying the mystic texts, Charlie's strength had grown immensely. These bodyguards were no match for him. Seeing Charlie in action, Jacob breathed a sigh of relief. He never expected his son-in-law to be so capable. It looked like he and his daughter were going to get out of the Wilson family's house safely after all. The bodyguards at the old house were all hired by Noah. They were his guys. Seeing how strong Charlie was, they all started to get nervous. Noah Wilson gritted his teeth. "Charlie, I didn't realize you knew some amateur hour martial arts, but let's see how you handle all of us at once. Get him! Yeah, let's get him! Finish him!" Harold chimed in, his face twisted with anger. He'd lost to Charlie before and was itching for payback. The group of bodyguards got the order and charged at Charlie. Charlie didn't even flinch. As the first few guards rushed him, he spun into a roundhouse kick, sending 2 of them flying. Then, with a blur of quick punches, he dropped the next guard who came at him. Claire, standing behind him, was in shock. She had no idea the man she lived with every day was this good at fighting. Seeing the shocked look on his daughter's face, Jacob quickly explained, "Claire, when you're at work, Charlie stays home and follows those martial arts workout videos on TV." "He practices martial arts?" Claire asked, completely stunned. Jacob said, "He knows a lot. Remember when Christian Knox asked him for help?" Watching Charlie fight off the bodyguards, Jacob felt a pang of guilt. The Wilson family had always looked down on Charlie, treating him like a live-in maid. But Charlie was still a man with his own pride. What man would be happy just cooking and cleaning his whole life? It felt like the family had really done him wrong. Meanwhile, Charlie was taking down one bodyguard after another, completely fearless. The courtyard was a total mess. Wendy and Mrs. Wilson had already run inside to hide, leaving only the men in the courtyard. Harold watched from the side, looking furious. He never imagined Charlie was this skilled. Seeing Charlie getting the upper hand, Harold gritted his teeth. He bent down, picked up an axe, and crept up behind Charlie just as he kicked another bodyguard away. He swung the axe right at Charlie's head. "Charlie, look out!" Claire screamed, seeing the glint of the axe. "Damn you, you worthless loser! I'm going to kill you!" Harold roared, all his old anger and new frustration boiling over as he swung the axe with all his might. Jacob was so scared that his legs went weak and he nearly collapsed. He was trying to kill Charlie. The axe blade flashed. Just as the axe was about to hit, Charlie suddenly shot his hand up. He caught the axe blade between two fingers and slowly turned his head to stare coldly at Harold. Harold was stunned. He pulled with all his might, trying to wrench the axe free, but Charlie's two fingers were like a steel vise. No matter how hard Harold pulled, the axe wouldn't budge an inch. Cold sweat dripped down Harold's forehead. He roared, "You loser! Let me go!" Charlie stared at him and sneered. "Harold, you're such an idiot. You can't even hit someone properly. You're pathetic." "You're just going to stand there and watch Harold try to kill him?" Jacob finally snapped, roaring with anger as he saw Harold swinging the axe at Charlie. But Mrs. Wilson, sitting in her chair, and Noah standing on the steps, didn't move a muscle. They didn't even blink. The other relatives from the Wilson family just stood there silently, as if it had nothing to do with them. All Mrs. Wilson cared about right then was the villa, and the others, of course, wanted it too. Sometimes the older people get, the greedier they become. The more they have, the more they want, hoping to live out their final years in luxury. Mrs. Wilson wanted a better place to live, a better place to die, and a better place to be buried. She believed it would guarantee her a life of endless wealth and glory in the next life. That's why old people often want to have an expensive coffin and a fancy grave prepared. For Mrs. Wilson, getting that $130 million villa was all that mattered. Even if Harold actually killed Charlie, it wouldn't matter as long as she got the house. Jacob and Claire looked at their so-called family and their hearts went completely cold. So this is what blood relatives meant. They were willing to plot and scheme, even kill, just to steal property. Noah finally spoke, his voice calm and unbothered. "Jacob, Harold is still just a kid. He's playing around. Why are you taking it so seriously? Besides, even if he did manage to cut Charlie, he's not really a Wilson, is he?" In Noah's mind, Charlie was just a house husband with no power or influence. Even if Harold did bash his brains in, the worst that would happen is they'd have to pay some money. That's how they'd get rid of the problem and get the money. The villa was worth $130 million. And with housing prices soaring, if they got their hands on it now, they could let Mrs. Wilson live in it first. By the time she passed away, the place would probably be worth at least $300 million. $300 million. All of it would be theirs. With that much money on the line, who could possibly resist? "You're no brother of mine," Jacob roared, grabbing a nearby mop and swinging it hard at Harold. Noah Wilson frowned, worried his son would get hurt, and immediately jumped in the way to stop him. "What is wrong with you? Have you lost your mind?" Noah yelled. Before he could finish, Jacob swung the mop again. Noah dodged, but the handle still smacked him on the shoulder, making him wince in pain. Seeing her father, who was normally so calm and easygoing, this furious, made Claire's stomach churn. She hated the Wilson family's cruelty and was terrified for Charlie's safety. At that moment, Charlie, still holding the axe blade, looked down at Harold with a smirk. "Harold, let me be honest," he whispered. "In my eyes, you're a complete joke." "Screw you, Charlie!" Rage flushed Harold's face. "You're a worthless loser! How dare you talk to me like that?" Before he could finish his sentence, Charlie grabbed his wrist and twisted it back sharply. There was a sickening snap, and Harold let out a blood-curdling scream. Charlie had bent his right hand back a full 180 degrees. breaking it clean. Harold howled in agony, collapsing to the ground in a sobbing heap. Seeing her grandson's wrist get broken by Charlie, Mrs. Wilson, who had been calmly watching the scene play out, suddenly flew into a rage. She was so furious that she rushed forward, aiming a slap right at Charlie's face. But as her hand swung toward him, Charlie spun around and said coldly, "Old woman, you're asking for it." Then he slapped Mrs. Wilson across the face, sending her staggering back a few steps. In that instant, Charlie's eyes were ice cold, and his entire body radiated a murderous aura. The slap stung, and Mrs. Wilson shuddered involuntarily. She covered her face and backed away, terrified. She didn't dare to look at Charlie. She had never seen such terrifying eyes on him before. The Wilson family was completely stunned. What the hell? What in the world? How dare that loser actually hit Mrs. Wilson? But who was going to stand up for her now? The injured bodyguard was already on the ground, and the remaining ones just stood there, fear on their faces, not daring to make a move. Even though Mrs. Wilson wanted Charlie dead, she knew right then that she couldn't stop him. He had learned martial arts somewhere, and he was too powerful. Claire felt her own heart pounding. Her eyes were fixed on Charlie, a strange mix of emotions swirling inside her. She couldn't help but feel her cheeks grow warm. It was the first time she had ever seen this strong, commanding side of him. Before, Claire had always thought of Charlie as quiet and reserved, someone who was only good for buying groceries and cooking. Now, seeing that no one else dared to challenge him, Charlie raised his head. He shot a cold glare at the crowd and then yelled at the two bodyguards cowering nearby. "If you don't open that door right now, I'll break both your necks." The two terrified bodyguards scrambled to open the door. "Mom, we can't just let them go," Noah said angrily. Mrs. Wilson gritted her teeth, staring daggers at Charlie, and said bitterly, "Let them go." "Grandma, how can we just let them leave like this?" Harold yelled, his eyes burning with hatred. "He broke my hand! I'm going to kill him!" Mrs. Wilson reined in her anger and said coldly, "All of you, shut up!" Noah spat viciously. "Charlie, you hurt my son and broke the Wilson family rules. You're going to regret this," Mrs. Wilson said, emphasizing every word. "From this day forward, Jacob's family is hereby removed from the Wilson family. They are no longer my family." Jacob lifted his head, blood trickling down his face from a cut. He said numbly, "I don't care about being part of a family like this anyway." Claire nodded. "That's right. We're not upset about it." Mrs. Wilson gritted her teeth and snapped, "Claire, you are nothing but a drain on this family. From now on, you are also fired from the Wilson Group. The Wilson Group is partnering with the M-Grand Group, and we're going to be huge. And you ungrateful granddaughter, will have nothing to do with it. Now get out of here and stay as far away from us as you can." Claire said firmly, "I don't care anymore. Dad, Charlie, let's go." With that, Claire and Charlie helped Jacob up. They shot one last angry glare at the Wilson family, then turned and walked away. She walked out the door without a single ounce of regret. Today, she had seen their true colors. So-called family. They were worse than strangers. If it wasn't for her parents, she would have cut ties with the Wilson family a long time ago. Charlie's heart felt like ice. Mrs. Wilson, Noah, Harold, 3 generations of complete idiots. What makes them think they can still cooperate with the M-Grand Group? As Charlie drove away from the Wilsons' house, Jacob said angrily, "If I had known my mother and my brother's family were so cold-blooded, I never would have helped them." Claire sighed from the passenger seat. The way they act, even if the Wilson family had a huge business, they'd run it into the ground. Her mother, Elaine, said indignantly, "The worst part is how much we helped them. That contract from the M-Grand Group, we got that for them. and now they get to keep it all. Charlie said casually, "Mom, people who do wrong eventually pay for it. They won't end up well. The only thing the Wilson family had going for them was their partnership with the Imgrand Group, and they had no idea that the company actually belonged to him. After offending him, they still expected to make money from the Imgrand Group? They were dreaming. All it would take was one phone call to Doris, and the Wilson family would be ruined." Jacob touched the dried blood on his head and muttered, "I can't believe the Wilson family is so ruthless. We didn't even get to spend one night in the villa that the White family gave us. They just had to steal it. Such bullies." Then, Jacob's eyes lit up. He turned to Charlie. "Hey, Charlie, take us to Thompson Villa. I can't stop thinking about that villa. I want to see it again." Claire said, "Dad, we're almost home. Why do you want to go there now? Isn't the villa still being renovated? Gavin is keeping an eye on it." Jacob insisted, "I just want to go take a look, or I won't be able to sleep tonight." Charlie completely understood Jacob's mindset. It was like someone who could never afford a car suddenly getting a top-of-the-line luxury vehicle. Even if they weren't driving it, they'd still want to go look at it in the parking lot. So he said to Claire, "If Dad wants to see it, let's go. We can even get some ideas for decorations. You can talk to Gavin York about them." Jacob smiled. "See? Charlie gets me." Claire sighed helplessly. "All right, fine. Let's go have a look." Charlie immediately made a U-turn at the traffic light and drove toward Thompson Crest. He parked the car in front of the Thompson Villa. As he got out, he frowned. The gate to the property was slightly ajar, and he could hear noises coming from inside. Seeing Charlie's silence, Claire asked, confused, "What's wrong?" Charlie said, "Something's not right. I'm going to go check it out." Charlie rushed ahead into the yard. The moment he stepped inside, he saw several bodyguards in black suits tossing furniture out of the villa. Jacob exclaimed, "Those are the Wilson family's men." A dark look crossed Charlie's face. The Wilsons just wouldn't quit. He hadn't even had a chance to go after them, and here they were showing up at his door. "Who let you in here?" Charlie demanded, rushing toward them. When the bodyguards saw Charlie, they looked panicked. Just then, Harold's raspy voice echoed from the main hall. "I let them in." Harold swaggered out, holding a crowbar in his left hand, his right hand wrapped in thick gauze. "Charlie, you piece of trash," Harold sneered. "Now that you've been kicked out of the Wilson family, this Thompson Villa belongs to us." "I'm here for the keys." Claire gritted her teeth and said, "You've gone too far. It wasn't enough to try and force Charlie to give up the villa, and now you're just trying to steal it?" Jacob added angrily. "Harold, this villa belongs to my son-in-law. No one can take it away." Harold spat on the ground and cursed. "Claire, who the hell do you think you are? You're just a stray we kicked to the curb. You have no right to talk to me." As he spoke, Harold hefted the crowbar again, pointing it at Jacob as he continued to curse. "And you, old man, you think you're still my uncle? Get lost before I break your leg." Charlie was furious. He asked coldly, "Where is Gavin?" Harold stepped forward and laughed. "You mean that old guy who was watching the place? I got rid of him. Had to teach him a lesson. So he'd know who the real owner of this villa is from now on." "You hit Gavin?" Charlie's eyes turned cold. Even though Gavin used to work for the White family, Charlie had put him in charge of this villa, which meant he worked for Charlie now. Besides, Gavin was an honest, loyal man who always treated him with respect. More importantly, he was over 60 years old. For Harold to attack an elderly man like that was just hateful. Why? He doesn't know his place. Sometimes you have to make an example out of someone so the people behind them understand who they're dealing with. I had to do it, to send a clear message to his so-called master. Ha 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 ha! After that, Harold laughed arrogantly, his face full of the sweet satisfaction of revenge. Charlie was so enraged that he punched him without a second thought. Harold couldn't dodge in time. Charlie's fist slammed into the bridge of his nose. Blood gushed out, and he screamed in pain. "Why are you just standing there? Get him! I want this loser dead!" Harold scrambled backward like a coward, shouting at the bodyguards. The bodyguards pulled long knives from their belts and charged viciously at Charlie. "Charlie, I know you can fight," Harold taunted, "but let's see how you handle this. Let's find out if your skin is tougher than a knife." Seeing this, the color drained from Claire and Jacob's faces. Charlie was a good fighter, but he was only human. He was up against the Wilson family's bodyguards, and they were armed with long knives. How could he possibly win? But Charlie didn't seem worried at all. His expression was cold, without the slightest change. "You think a pathetic crew like this can take my life?" With that, Charlie moved like a phantom, weaving between the Wilson family's bodyguards. Even with their long knives, they couldn't so much as graze his clothes. And Charlie, moving with a deadly grace, started his attack while effortlessly evading theirs. Every punch he threw seemed casual, but it cut through the air with a sharp crack, full of incredible force. These bodyguards were all retired special forces, and they were armed, but they were no match for Charlie. In the blink of an eye, he had knocked every single one of them to the ground. No one could even see how he'd done it. His movements were a complete blur, and one moment the bodyguards were charging, the next they were on the ground. Charlie was furious and showed them no mercy. He had deliberately attacked their limbs. Now every one of them lay in the yard with broken hands or feet, screaming in agony. Harold was completely stunned by what he was seeing. He knew Charlie was tough, but he never expected this. The bodyguards, armed with knives, were no match for Charlie at all. Seeing the murderous look on Charlie's face, Harold's legs started to shake. Coming here to take the villa had been Mrs. Wilson's idea. Because he hated Charlie, he'd volunteered for the job, seeing it as the perfect chance to destroy him. But he never imagined Charlie would take down all the bodyguards without getting a single scratch. Is this guy even human? Charlie was already walking toward Harold, his face like ice. He was going to teach this punk a lesson and make him pay for it, painfully. Seeing Charlie coming for him, Harold's face went pale with fear. He blurted out, "You can't kill me. I'm from the Wilson family. If you even touch a hair on my head, the Wilson family will never let you get away with it." Charlie was cold and unmoved. He walked right up to Harold, grabbed him by the collar, and said icily, "The Wilson family means less than nothing to me." "Claire! Uncle! Make him stop!" Harold pleaded with Claire and Jacob, all his earlier defiance gone. Claire said coldly, "You brought this on yourself. You deserve it." Jacob looked from Claire to Harold, completely torn. He had to admit he was completely disappointed with the Wilson family. Harold was his nephew, but Harold didn't care one bit about family, so why should he? But the Wilson family still had power. If Charlie actually killed Harold, the family would come after him with a vengeance. Thinking of this, Jacob said helplessly, "Charlie, just teach him a lesson." Charlie thought for a second, then gave a cold nod and slammed Harold to the ground. Gravel dug into his face, and blood started to flow freely. "I'll let you live," Charlie said, "but you've pissed me off. You may not get a death sentence, but you're not getting away unpunished." With that, Charlie drove his fist into Harold's lower stomach. The punch was full of force and landed right in his groin. Even though Harold was just an ordinary guy with no martial arts skills, that one punch was enough to destroy his ability to ever function as a man. From now on, he would be completely useless in that department. The pain hit Harold like a tidal wave, the worst pain he had ever felt in his life. He writhed on the ground, screaming in agony, with no idea what the long-term damage from that single punch would be. Afterward, Charlie immediately called building security. They arrested Harold and his crew and took them to the police station. Then Charlie went to check on Gavin. Luckily, Gavin had only suffered some scrapes and bruises. It was nothing serious, and Charlie was relieved. Still, Charlie was furious with the Wilson family. After a stunt like this, they couldn't blame him for whatever happened next. When they got home, Jacob sat on the sofa. The cuts on his face had been cleaned, but he still had a bruised nose and a swollen face. A dark bruise was already forming on his forehead. He seemed to be in a daze, his head spinning. His own brother had ordered bodyguards to beat him severely. He felt a deep, chilling hurt, and was still seething with anger. Claire gently dabbed some ointment on his forehead and said, "Dad, Charlie already got back at them for you. Try not to take it so hard." Jacob sighed. "I just feel so cold inside. My own mother, my own brother. Neither of them treats me like I'm part of the family." Then Jacob added, "Claire, now that they've kicked you out of the Wilson group, what are your plans?" Claire said, "A plan? I guess I'll just start looking for a job." Seeing this, Charlie didn't say anything. He just walked out to the balcony and called Salman White. The second Salman answered, Charlie asked him, "Your nephew Gerald, is he still engaged to Wendy?" "Yes," Salman said quickly. "Mr. Wade, do you have any instructions for me?" Charlie's voice was cold. "I've cut ties with the Wilson family. If your White family stays connected to them through marriage, I won't be happy about it. And if any problems come up because of it, don't blame me for being harsh." When Salman heard that, he got nervous and blurted out, "Mr. Wade, please don't misunderstand. Our family has wanted to call off this marriage for a long time. If you weren't their son-in-law, we never would have agreed to an engagement with someone like Wendy in the first place. Don't worry, I'll have someone go over right now and inform the Wilson family that the engagement is off." Charlie nodded, satisfied. "I'll leave that to you," Salman hurriedly promised. "Mr. Wade, don't worry. From now on, the White family will follow your lead in everything." "Good," Charlie said simply. "Do it now." "Yes, Mr. Wade." So the Wilson family wanted to align with the White family? Well, so much for that fantasy. Next, Charlie called Doris from the Grand group. The Wilson family was already on the ropes. It was time to land another blow. As soon as she picked up, Charlie said coldly, "Doris, I want you to make a public announcement that the Grand group is suspending all cooperation with the Wilson group, and make it clear that we will never work with them again." Doris was surprised. "Mr. Wade, that's your wife's family's company. Did they do something to hurt Miss Claire that badly?" Charlie said flatly, "My wife has cut ties with them. From now on, they have nothing to do with her or me." Doris understood immediately. "Don't worry, Mr. Wade. I get it. I'll release a statement right away." Just like that, the Wilson family was completely finished. So Mrs. Wilson thinks she's untouchable? Let's see how she feels when she has nothing left. After hanging up, Charlie went back into the living room and looked at Jacob. He saw that Jacob's eye sockets were swollen, and the bruise on his forehead was getting worse. It looked like it would take at least a month and a half to fade, and he could tell that Jacob hadn't just suffered cuts and bruises, but also some trauma to his brain. There was a small amount of bleeding inside his skull. The best thing would be to go to the hospital for a procedure to remove the blood clot. Otherwise, over time, that internal bleeding would be a ticking time bomb. One day, it could suddenly rupture, which could be fatal. However, Charlie was afraid Claire would panic, so he decided to keep this to himself for now. He stood up and said, "I'll go out and buy some medicine to treat Dad." The mystic texts described many healing techniques. He knew of a special prescription that could ease his father-in-law's melancholy and improve his blood circulation, which was exactly what he needed. Claire asked curiously, "What kind of remedies are you going to buy? Will they really work, or should we just go to the hospital?" Charlie smiled slightly and said, "There's no need to go to the hospital. The doctors will just try to scare him and make it sound worse than it is. Dad would only get more anxious if he heard that. I have a remedy that is very effective for bruises. Claire nodded then. When Charlie opened the door, he happened to see a familiar face standing just outside. It was Christian Knox. He frowned, looked at Christian Knox, and asked, "Why are you here?" When Christian saw Charlie, he smiled warmly and said, "Mr. Wade, I heard you ran into some trouble today, so I gathered some medicinal herbs and brought them over for you to see." After he spoke, a bodyguard behind him stepped forward and respectfully presented a red wooden box. Christian opened the lid and smiled. "Mr. Wade, please take a look." Inside the box was a rare, wild ginseng root as thick as an arm, a shiny purplish-red ginseng root, and several other expensive herbs you couldn't find in a regular herbalist shop. Charlie glanced at them. Although these herbs were valuable, they didn't contain much spiritual energy, but they were better than nothing. As it happened, he needed to prepare a circulation booster, and these herbs would be perfect for it. Charlie nodded slightly and said, "I'll take them." Christian quickly handed over the box and said, "Thanks to your guidance, Mr. Wade, everything is going great for the Knox family now. Our business has doubled in the last 2 days, and it's all because of you. In the future, if you need anything from the Knox family, please don't hesitate to ask. I will do everything in my power to make it happen." Charlie said, "Then keep an eye out for me. If you find any more high-quality herbs, bring them to me. They're very useful." "Yes!" After Christian agreed, he immediately asked, "Mr. Wade, if you're not busy, would you like to come over for a home-cooked meal?" Charlie said flatly, "Some other time. There's a lot going on at home right now." "Okay," Christian said quickly. "Then I won't keep you." After speaking, he left. Charlie turned around and went back inside. Jacob's headache was getting unbearable, so Claire was helping him get ready to go to a nearby wellness center, hoping a massage would help his circulation. Charlie said to him, "Dad, it's not a good idea for you to be moving around right now. Just rest for a bit. A friend just dropped off some herbs. I'm going to make a pill for you. It should really help." Jacob asked doubtfully, "Charlie, since when do you know how to cure people and make medicine?" Charlie said, "I learned a little bit a while ago." He could hardly tell him that he'd read the mystic texts and knew of a special pill. It was a lost herbal remedy. It could not only clear blood clots in the brain, but it also had a miraculous effect on serious brain conditions like strokes. If he made that pill, it would definitely cure Jacob. But Jacob was a little worried. He said awkwardly, "Charlie, it's not that your dad doesn't believe you. You're good at fighting, sure, but you can't learn how to treat people and save lives just by watching TV." He coughed twice and said, "Look, just let Claire take me to the hospital." Charlie smiled slightly and said, "Okay, if you don't trust me, you can go to the hospital and give that a try first. If it works, that's great." Jacob said quickly, "It's not that I don't trust you. It's just, it really hurts right now. I'm just going to go see a doctor first." After he said that, he turned to Claire. "Claire, let's go." Claire nodded, helped Jacob to his feet, and they left. Charlie walked into the kitchen and started preparing the remedy. According to the mystic texts, this medicine was incredibly effective. Jacob only had some minor bleeding in his brain. To make the remedy, Charlie left out a few of the herbs before he began.